Hello and welcome to the Apex Racing UK team stream for the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. I'm Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me is Marco Barbonet and Sam Kume on the cameras. We are very excited looking at this one, Marco. Last time at Imola, we were so close to getting that first race victory. Peter Berryman getting the pole position, leading some 55 laps of the 63 laps. In the end, just bested in the end by the two Coanda drivers. But today, Jamie Flike on the front row of the grid around this tricky Zandvoort circuit. Gonna be some race.
It is. Hello everybody, and we know qualifying is crucial here because passing is so hard. So front row starting position is amazing, and we'll have to make the most of it coming down the first corner. I've talked to the drivers all week long, and I remember also the interviews we had with the drivers after the previous round at Imola, and they were all complaining about the fact that it's impossible to pass here. It works a bit like a street circuit, basically. So getting your position in the early part of the race will be important, and then after that your only hope is an opponent's mistake or strategy. There's no way around it. Passing will be almost impossible. Even though this is a beautiful track, I don't think it is very well suited for this kind of racing. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, racing's going to be super difficult around here, isn't it? There's just so few overtaking spots, and I think that's going to have an influence on strategy, isn't it? This isn't a circuit where you can think, oh, I'll just pit, whenever I like, and I'll just run my own race. Because if you come into the pits, come out, let's say P10 or something, which is very possible at your first pit stop, all of a sudden you're behind, drivers on old tyres, and you're going to lose so much time. So the strategy that you just mentioned is going to be really important. Do you know what the tyre wear is like around here, Marco? Because, a one-stop is going to be, I think, the best strategy due to the reason I just explained. But do you know if that's practical or not, or whether a two-stop is going to be better, because we have got a 37-degree track temperature?
Well, when you do a two-stopper, you bank on the fact that other drivers are going to do that, and that even if you have traffic in front of you, you can easily get rid of said traffic. And I don't think that's the case here. So maybe we will see one-stoppers, but I don't want to lead you into wrong ideas, so we will wait and see as usual.
Yes, absolutely. Lining up on the grid now are the drivers, and it's Martin Conke on the pole position ahead of Jamie Flike in second. It's Rogers, Berryman starting in fourth. What can he do from there? It's Schottos, De Jong, Jensen, Backham, Michaels, Umeshima in the top 10, and then the other Apex drivers. Kevin S. Jr. starting from 16th. He will certainly be racing his way through the field later on. And only 3 drivers out there, unfortunately. Antoine Hegelin, unfortunately, couldn't make it. But what a race we are going to be in for here. All the drivers on the grid, I believe. And here we go. Engines will rise. Jamie Flike needs to get a good start here. Martin Conke on the pole. And here we go. It's a good start for Flike. Is he going to be able to challenge Conke into turn 1? Not quite. Conke gets a good start, and Flike just about hanging on to second position going into turn 1. Berryman still in third, although he's under pressure from De Jong just behind. He hangs on to that one. De Jong with a really good start. Seemingly quite calm through these first few corners. Flike there, Marco, got a good start, didn't he? Just couldn't quite get close enough to De Jong.
Yeah, the first part of his start was very good. The secondary part wasn't as good, and maybe that's all down to Martin's ability, because he was able to recuperate after a very, very bad start from the line. And so the drivers are second, fourth, and 14th. And one thing I have to absolutely stress: avoid at all cost front wing damage, especially in the beginning of the race, as we see a crash in the back. I think it's Schottos going around there, because it will add unnecessary time to your pit, and as we talked about a few minutes ago, there is absolutely no time to waste here, both in the race and in the pits, because you want to avoid traffic as much as you can.
Yeah, that could well be the key out there. Out in the lead is Martin Conke though, with Flike staying close. He's 0.4 of a second across the line behind. And it's kind of the opposite of what we saw at Imola with Conke harassing Berryman for the opening parts of the event. This time, the other way round between Coranda and Apex Racing UK. But those top four really close. What will Berryman be able to do from this position, Marco? It's not going to be easy for him to make the overtakes, as he got to already be starting about a potential strategy that he could use.
Yeah, the good thing for him is that he will be able to know what the drivers in front of him are doing. He has De Jong behind him, and we will see if he's going to be a threat or not to Peter's position. Apart from that, yeah, that's the only positive I think from being in pole position right now. You see the drivers in front of you, you know when they're pitting, if they're staying out, and he will try to work a strategy around around what happens in front of him. We'll see. I think we have only one DRS zone here, and it's right here at the start-finish line, and I don't think that will be enough to make overtakes, because this straight is very, very short, and also I think it is very difficult to follow through the final corner, the area Lion-Dyke corner there, especially when you are in the draft of someone in front of you. So strategy will be crucial. I don't expect a lot of passes on the track, but we'll see. It's always easy to predict, and never easy to get your predictions correct when you're commentating, I have noticed. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really difficult to call right now. The strategy could be really important in this one. You think Conke from the lead's got to go for one stop if it's possible. Imola, we saw one stops, but it was very difficult for the drivers to achieve that. Although we did see a drive from, was it Umeshima, the following day, how he managed to do an entire 40 lap race on a single set of tyres, and it really worked out well. So that's the DRS zone then, just going through there. So it's not down the pit straight, I think, it's just going into that corner that they just went through. And that will, yeah, that will help.
Because I saw a DRS board here. We will see it in a second, I think. There it is on your left. So.
Oh, they are using it. So, yep. So there's two then. Yeah.
Well, if this one on the front stretch is useless, the other one is even less useful than this one. I don't know if they need to have two per every track in order to have some sort of consistency, whilst in real life some tracks have one, some tracks have two. But yeah, it's not going to play a part, I think, in today's race.
No, I don't think so. Because Kevin Ellis Jr. up 4 positions from his start, and he's actually quite close to Pashalis Gergis out there, 11th and 12th, those two. Ellis Jr. looking quite a bit faster, seemingly, at the moment.
Yeah, we know Kevin's not really a driver that lives in these positions. He's, of course, used to be much higher in the field. So he knows he's faster than these guys. But once again, it's very difficult to pass, and we'll have to work very, very hard, I think, to even get into the top 10 or even top 8.
Yeah, I think so. Now you can just see the car understeering through that final corner. Just not the grip in qualifying. That's easy flat out. But you know, in these heavier cars at the start of the race, and when you're trying to manage the tyres, as Kevin will obviously be doing, it's a hell of a lot more difficult, and with the turbulent air as well from the car ahead. I don't know, Sam, if we could just go back to the opening lap on board with Kevin. Just see what his start was like, because he gained 4 positions. He's the big gainer out there, at least in the top kind of 15 drivers. And yeah, here was his start. So this will be quite fascinating. You can see how narrow this circuit is. That was a really good launch, wasn't it, Marco? And at least gets one down here. And it just opens up for him down the inside. Takes it. Still doesn't profit too much at this point, but I think benefits from collisions up ahead.
Yeah, we're going to see a crash in the next couple of corners, if I'm not mistaken. And I was a little bit concerned that he might be involved in it, but I don't think he was. His car looks good. I have to say, this track is beautiful, look at that, but once again, not very well suited for Formula 1 racing. I think it's a joy to drive in the slower cars. I can tell you that when the Skip Barbers come here, it's probably my favorite race of the year. Let's see here, we should see the crash in front of us. No?
Yep, yeah, it was.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, there it is.
It was a Koenig
Oh.
driver, and it was shot tossed, wasn't it? So I think it was De Jong and shot tossed, because they both lost quite a bit of time. And Ellis Jr., did he make the move here? Would have been super opportunistic. Yeah, couldn't quite make the move. He is still in P12, by the way. Still behind Gergis. Is the undercut a potential plan for Ellis Jr.? Because if you pick, well, it's really difficult, and of course they will have their own spots as these drivers. I certainly know our drivers certainly have their spotters to work stuff out. But if he pitted now, he'd come out about 5 seconds behind Paul Ilbrink, but then another kind of 17 seconds behind David Williams, I believe. So if he pitted now, he wouldn't get too much traffic necessarily, and he could maybe get a really good undercut on these drivers.
Yeah, I think the undercut is the only way. Look at that, he's so close to Gergis, he is much faster. He was trying to make a move going into one, but that wasn't possible, of course. He had to... You cannot... And of course, you have to also think long term, you have to think about the championship, and if you make a mistake now, it's impossible to get the track position back, basically. So the undercut is basically the only option, I think. But I also think it's a little bit too early. Of course, the race distance is 71 laps, so we are basically in Monte Carlo type duration, because they have 78 laps. Laps are very short. The average speed I don't think is very high. And like I said, this is working a lot like a street circuit without being one for these cars.
Yeah,
everyone is following. Maybe Kevin will have good exit speed here, but you see, I think Gergis has the DRS as well, so it is not very effective. It's not effective even when the car in front of you doesn't have DRS, but if the guy has DRS as well, you basically have no chance to make a pass. And yeah, Kevin stays in P12, and I think that positions haven't changed much along the entire field since the dropping of the green flag, except for that crash in the very first lap.
Yeah, I haven't seen any kind of changes on our timing screen, so I don't think there has been really any overtakes. It shows how difficult it is, and when you've got chains like this, the only reason I think why Ellis Jr. can't get this move on Gergis done is because Gergis has got DRS on the corpse. So as long as that goes above a second, actually, he's even close this time, Ellis Jr. Can he go for the surprise attack into this one? It's gonna be like a, you know, a Danny Rick type move where it's absolutely out of nowhere, but he just isn't close enough, and you know the big concerns around this circuit aren't particularly large. Just having to get out of the plots a little bit early on in that corner, and Gergis still within 7/10 of the corpse. So as long as that stays within a second, then I can't really see Ellis Jr. making the overtake anytime soon.
Yeah, trying a different line in turn one, but it's so narrow. You have to. Only thing you can do here is follow, even here at this little hairpin there, and then all this section here is very fast, but it's not straight, and it's twisting left and right. So I think they do it full throttle, but there's no way you can set up a pass. Even here at the right-hander, you have to basically hope for a mistake from your opponent, because then the track flattens a bit for this double right-hander and then the left-hander, and you don't even have. It's not like some other tracks where you have a little bit of banking that helps you maybe take a different line through the corner. You see Kevin is so close. But Yeah, he's trying, and I think I see some, some front wing damage on Kevin. That would be huge. Hopefully, it's just my screen.
Yeah, I see it as well a little bit, but it's you know, very minor.
Yeah, but that's going
That
to...
he will have to change it though, won't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we saw some drivers ask for the option not to change the front wing at the pit stops. We've been hearing some complaints with iRacing about that, and they are right, I think, because, like you said, it's not like it gets you a huge performance penalty. I have to say, when you have that minor damage on the front wing, I think it's almost the performance loss is non-existent, because these drivers can do fast laps and follow as well as when they have no front wing damage. So that could be something that changes in the future. But now Kevin, stuck in traffic, will also have more disadvantage because he will have to lose, I think, around 10 seconds total when he sits on his pit box for the tire change.
Yeah, you can really see from these camera shots that we're seeing from now. You can see that damage just on the kind of nose cone. It's not really on the front wing. It's just on the nose cone, and that could well be enough for him to have to change the front wing. How closely this time? Just taking a slightly tighter line. Actually, is really close. So Ellis Jr. And actually, driver ahead doesn't help the situation. So Ellis Jr. will go to the inside now into turn 1, and he makes the move on Pashalis Gergis. That was absolutely crucial, and Gergis there, I think, was within DRS zone of the corpse. You don't think maybe that was a bit of a strategic move there from Gergis, letting Ellis pass, because he didn't defend whatsoever against the Apex driver.
Yeah, you are right. No defense whatsoever, which is strange, because we know Pashalis is a driver that always wants to fight and is very proud of his hard racing. We'll see. Again, Kevin has a lot of pace. So now, once again, I see his front wing in a good shape.
Oh dear.
So, you know, some magic work from the Apex mechanics, or the magic of the connection, that I absolutely think it's the second one. And so this, of course, changes the outlook of Kevin's race. If he has no damage, then he will not lose those famous 10 seconds at the stops, and I think he will try to close the gap on the corpse as well. We see the lap times. Yeah, that was his best lap of the race, but goes a little bit wide into the Tarzan corner, even though we have seen him do a different line than the other guys in the first corner. He's getting closer and closer to the corpse. Further proof, I think, that his qualifying lap was absolutely not realistic of his true pace, so maybe we'll sneak into the top 10 in the next few laps.
Yeah, just looking at the gaps to the other drivers, he's only 13.5 seconds off the lead. It'll be fascinating to compare his times. On that last lap, he was faster than Jamie Flike. He was faster than Peter. He wasn't faster than Peter Berryman, but he did a 16.36 compared to Kroenke's 16.29, Fluke's 16.45, and Berryman's 16.20. So he has got really good paces, Kevin. He just can't show it from this position currently. He's still got a few more cars to overtake. We should just check in on the top 4 with Jamie Fluke, of course, still running in second position, just dropping off ever so slightly. And actually, these past couple of laps, Marco, say Kroenke has pulled away by a couple of tenths on each of these last couple of laps. Is this maybe Fluke struggling a little bit for tyres, or maybe do you think Martin's properly turning it up now?
Well, we all know Martin's qualities. He's an extremely fast driver, and I'm sure he's doing his best to get a gap on Kroenke. Sorry, on Jamie. But Jamie is also having a little bit of a cushion on Rogers as well, around 1 second. And if he can get even more of a gap, I think that will help Peter as well, because Rogers won't have the DRS, and maybe Peter Berryman will be able to get the pass on the start-finish line.
I'm a bit concerned for Jamie Fleet because I don't know if you can see it, Marco. I see a bit of damage to his front wing. It's not just the nose cone either. I see a little bit bent on his front wing as well. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, I must say.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't want to say anything because you know, the magical repair could have happened once again. Let's hope it does. Maybe you know, because he clearly did not have any contact with anybody, but maybe he's riding hard on some of these curves. We'll see if in the next few laps, like we say in iRacing speech, the damage will pop out and get back to normal, like we had with Kevin in the previous laps.
Yeah, I gotta hope for that. Berryman looking really quick. It's difficult to judge how fast these drivers are, but I must say, the way that Peter has just stayed within, 5-6 tenths of a second within Josh Rogers for this entire stint. I don't see any damage on that car whatsoever. I really think he's got the pace of Kroenke, if not better. I think he looks a little bit faster than Flike. If he can just get the move on Josh Rogers right now, I feel as though there might be a swap potentially. Of course, no team orders, obviously, but I think Jamie might feel as though it's beneficial for the team to just swap those positions around. But unless Jamie can break that DRS to Josh Rogers, I can't see Pizza making that move. Just like it's just the same situation as we saw Kevin in. Apart from, Gergis is, no disrespect to him, he's quite a bit slower than Rogers, so it's, 10 times more difficult.
Yeah, Fluke is lapping in the 5s regularly in the past few laps, whilst Kroenke is gaining a little bit less this time around, but still a couple of tenths gained on Jamie Fluke in second position. Meanwhile, the gap between Fluke and Rogers is always going between 8 tenths of a second, 7 tenths of a second, sometimes 9 tenths of a second, but never over that famous second you need to be over to not give the opponent behind you DRS. So far the status quo remains the same in position 2, 3 and 4, and nobody can seem to get an edge on the other drivers. We'll see. Once again, the key will be Jamie maybe getting the famous second of gap towards to Rogers and not give him DRS. But even this time it's 8 tenths of a second at the DRS detection point, so they stay the same. Similar laps for the top 3.
Oh, what? Berryman's doing.
Berryman made the move. Wow, what happened there?
I think it was wide. Yeah, Rogers missed his braking zone. Oh, this is fantastic. Peter Berryman, this is Christmas and his birthday wrapped into one. Down the inside he goes into turn 1. Berryman up into P3 in Apex Racing UK. Really in business now, running in 2nd and 3rd with their 2 cars really showing good pace. And we'll wait and see now. Will Berryman and Flike have a little bit of a change for position? We'll see if Berryman can catch up first. He is some 1.4 seconds behind. But this completely changes the outlook on this race, doesn't it, Marco? Coanda with their drivers in 1st and 5th. I think, whilst Kroenke has track position, I think Flike and Berryman really do hold a good set of cards now.
Yeah, and I'm sure the drivers and the spotters are talking to each other, and they will probably try to find out a strategy to maximize their position at the end of the race. And Jensen pitting right now, so already somebody is in.
So I'm not convinced by this from Jensen, I must say. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out, because I think he's going to be behind the entire field. Is he? I will just keep an eye on it on the timing screen. Unless they feel as though they've found a little bit of a pocket of space, and they have actually. They got about 4 seconds of clear space, does Marcus Jensen. However, then he'll be onto the back of Partsington and Verges and Orozco, Price, Vaz, Michaels, and then there'll be a bit of a further gap to Gergis, I think. So yeah, could work, maybe won't work, but it's fascinating to see this team rivalry, I think, Marco. We've seen Burst Esports with their 2 drivers. We've got Coanda with their 2 drivers, and we've got Apex Racing UK with their 2 drivers. And it's not just a case of running your own race. If these drivers want to have a chance at the race victory, they've got to work together within their teams and help each other with their strategies.
Yeah, the level of competition is so high, you cannot do that on your own, absolutely. And we've seen in the past few laps that actually Fluke and Berryman are lapping slightly quicker than Kromke. Not by much, but they are around 1 and 2 tenths quicker than their opponent up top. So we see how that works as Kevin is trying to make a move on the court. Finally, he caught up to him. I'm thinking of a move at the start-finish line in the next lap, of course.
It's clear that Ellis is significantly faster. I think Ellis, judging by that, he's really only had like maybe 2 clean laps in this entire race. Apart from that, he's just been stuck behind other drivers. But those couple of laps that he did set, he was right on par with Jamie Fluke in terms of his lap time. So I think he's right there as Ellis Jr. And now a slide for the Corps. Ellis Jr. on his tail going into this next corner. He was almost close enough to go for the move there. So another mistake potentially from the Corps, and Ellis Jr. might be through. Now, through this penultimate corner, just about lining the car up. He's lost a tiny bit of time to that penultimate corner. Now, is he flat through this next one? Not quite, but he's in the DRS zone now. The slipstream will drag him closer, closer, closer. Can he look to the inside? Going into turn 1, Ellis Jr. not quite close enough though. Wide though from his rival. Jr. not quite close enough though. Can't get side by side going into turn 2. Looks a lot faster, doesn't he, Marco? A couple of slides from the courts, maybe the tyres. As Junior, though, looking absolutely rooted to the track.
Yeah. Meanwhile, 15.6 for Jensen, lapping significantly faster than the guys in front of him after the tire change, which happened at lap 17. We are on lap 19. We will see how this will play out if Jensen will go for another stop or not, and if the other top drivers will follow suit in pitting this early. Remember, 71 lap race, so we have still a long way to go, even though the laps are significantly short here, around we said 1 minute 15, something like that. Kevin very, very close on the back of the Corps car.
Pretty much identical. He's a little bit further back this time, taking a slightly alternative line. He's mainly been kind of taking early apex there, and then kind of just sticking to the inside. That time, oh, he's going to go into the back of him, and that's just a mistake from S Junior. That's so frustrating for Kevin. In the end, just got caught out, and I don't think LSG necessarily broke much later that time. You could see he was easily going to make the corner. And of course, we're not going to exactly blame that one on the Corps whatsoever. That was completely Kevin Ellis Jr.'s fault. But yeah, just a bit of a misjudgment then. By the time he realised, it was just too late.
Yeah, that was. I think that was that. A little bit of misjudgment in the braking. We see the replay right now. Let's see what happens. Wow, and that was a. Wow, the Corps car got launched in the air for a contact, however hard. It was just a front-to-back contact, and that car was launched in the air, doing several barrel rolls in the air. And now I'm trying to see if Kevin has got that famous front wing damage again, as Bakum and Omishima are in the pits. So Kevin Ellis will move to position number 7.
From what I can see on Kevin S. Jr.'s front wing, I think it's kind of okay, which is
wow.
Just sums up the iRacing damage model.
So Jensen now up to P10, is lapping in the 15th once again, as Peter Berryman is closing in on Jamie Fluke. So we will see if that Fernando is faster than you button will be pressed or not.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? 3 seconds off the leaders, Berryman. And I feel as though if we're gonna win this race, I think these two have got to change positions. Rogers really dropping off in the background. Rogers is now some 3 seconds behind these two, so kind of shows how much Rogers is struggling a little bit out there. Now, Berryman, not close enough this time. Rogers is into the pits. I think that's a last roll of the dice really got to come to the pits, and this will now be interesting, Marco. Where does Rogers come out in comparison to Jensen? Because if they're close to one another, then it kind of shows that Jensen potentially, if Jensen is significantly ahead of Rogers, then it kind of shows that maybe our two guys are under a bit of pressure from that really early undercut that we saw earlier on.
And we see, I think there are like a couple of seconds between Jensen and Rogers, if I'm not mistaken, as the drivers are out of the pits.
Now this is, this is getting a little bit tense now. Oh dear, I'm a bit concerned now, because if we stay out one lap longer, then I think Jensen might have Berryman or Flike, potentially the pair of them. So this is big times now. The question is, will Jensen get stuck in traffic behind Stephen Michaels? Kevin S. Jr. is a little bit further ahead as well. So let's see, do either of our drivers come in, Flike and Berryman? Flike is into the pits, and I think that's just the right thing, Marco. Means that Berryman gets a bit clearer. Now the question is, will Flike stay ahead of Jensen?
Yeah, and I think we are moving towards a two-stopper right now, if I'm not mistaken. We see these guys get 23 laps with one set of tires. We have 70 laps to go total, so even though, let's see, Fluke is behind Jensen and in front of Rogers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's not good whatsoever, unfortunately. Flike behind Jensen then, yeah, so... Oh yeah, that's not fantastic. 1 lap earlier, I think, was the time for Flike to come in, unfortunately. And he's lost track position to that Burst Esport car. It's going to be very difficult now to make the moves. Of course, on strategy, he has a far superior strategy, but it is still inconvenience for us, because it means that it kind of gives Rogers a chance of getting back into this race in comparison to Flike. Also does mean that if Berryman pitted now, Marco, of course he'd be behind these two drivers. So I think now, if Berryman wasn't already, he's got to stay out for a lot longer, and he is into the pits, and I don't fancy his chances.
Yeah, Kronk is also in as well, so De Jong takes the lead. Let's see. The drivers are changing tires, and I think that both... Well, Kronky is out, Jensen is right behind him.
Oh,
and Fluke has overtaken Berryman, who's crucially in front of Rogers.
Yeah, that was very important then. So I think Apex Racing UK realised that was going to happen, to be fair. Maybe they wanted Flike to just be ahead of Jensen. That would have kind of been ideal, but Berryman now with fresher tyres than these two guys have got to make sure they stays ahead of Rogers. Cannot afford to drop behind him once again. Really has not worked out this one for Rogers. Was running in second position earlier on, and yeah, now down in that P6, could be under pressure from De Jong as well.
Top 5, virtual top 5, very close to each other, I have to say. De Jong is of course an outlier because he still has to pit, and I think he will do that shortly. Lapping in the almost 17th, so he is losing a lot of time, because all the guys with the fresher tires can lap in the 15th. In the first few laps they are out of the pits. We'll see now the lap times on the start-finish straight. Of course the guy who pitted are lapping a little bit higher, but you see 15.9 for Fluke, for example. or 16.2 for Jensen. He's losing a little bit of time already because he pitted very, very early on lap 17. But you see, Omishima, Palabakum, Ellis, they are in the 15s right now.
Yeah, I think with that De Jong strategy, it was really the only thing that they could do because he was running in 6th position. I think to beat any of these 4 guys, I think they kind of got to do something really obscure with him, and this is really the only choice. What they've got to make sure is he stays ahead of Umeshima, and I must say, he pitted now. I'm not convinced he'd be ahead of Umeshima because he's losing some 1.5 seconds a lap to him. So, yeah, Mitchell's got to come in now, and if he did come in now, he'd only have, what, 3 lap younger tyres than the 2 Apex boys and Rogers. So, I don't think that's going to really work out for Mitchell. It kind of shows how much track position matters here because there's not a whole lot you can do if you're behind the other driver, but can Flike get the move now on Marcus Jensen? Going down into turn 1, Flike down the inside. This is absolutely crucial for the race, but he can't quite make it there. Nearly rubbing wheels, but not quite close enough was Flike there, but you can see he's right there on those significantly younger tyres, 6 laps younger tyres. He's right in the mix.
I don't think you can get any closer than that, but now this has opened the door for Peter Berryman to get closer to Jamie Fluke, so Jamie has to make this move quickly, otherwise he will also impact his teammates' race and maybe expose himself once again to some kind of team order to facilitate Peter's pass, because they cannot afford to lose any more time behind Jensen right there. So we'll see what happens right now on the start-finish line. If Jamie has a good exit, he could go for a pass once again. De Jong stays out.
So De Jong's got to be behind Kazuki now, surely. I don't know, but I'm doubting this strategy from Kwanzaa. But then who am I? Although he could well be on a one-stopper, that would probably make more sense, wouldn't it? But more pressingly, Flike, he's close again, defensive, goes Jensen, Flike to the outside, going into turn 1, and Jamie Flike has made an awesome move there. Can he hold on to it though? He's still going to be under pressure. No, yes he can, sorry. And Berryman just behind. That was awesome from Flike, wasn't it? He had the momentum on the outside there. Jensen didn't want him to have the inside, but Flike did not care.
Yeah, let's jump on board with Jamie. What a great move around the outside, and this is why I was talking about banking, because Tarzan corner has a little bit of banking, and Jamie used it to his advantage, going a little bit on the outside, and like on the ovals, on the outside, you get a great exit, maybe slower on the entrance, but faster on the exit, and that worked at the perfection for him. And now Peter Berryman trying to get the same move done as well on Jensen. So battle for P4, which is virtually, I think, P3. Let's see, because the young strategy is not very clear. You're right, maybe he's going for a one-stopper. I'm not counting him out, but he's, of course, a huge question mark for the rest of the race.
So Berryman is really close now. He'll look to the inside, and yeah, he kind of had a thought about it, then I think had a second thought about it, because Jensen was so early on the breaks. The problem there was that Jensen had the slipstream from Flike, but you can see Berryman, I must say, I'm super impressed by Peter today, because he looks so fast, and you can see how close he is onto the back of the Burst Esports car. And he could even have a look here down the outside. That would have been absolutely crazy for Berryman to go for a move there, but he's so close here. And he looked to the inside, maybe. I think that's just put him offline a little bit. Otherwise, he may have had a chance into this next corner. But Berryman, so close. And once Jensen doesn't have that slipstream due to Flike, he'll be easily passed.
Yeah, Peter is much faster. The only thing I'm hoping is that he does not force the move too much. Of course, you have to be a bit aggressive here, but if you force your move too much, you risk having a collision, and that's not what you want. Now, great exit from Peter. Oh, he's got him this time, I think.
Awesome run, and Jensen isn't even defending it. Berryman down the inside. Apex Racing UK back to 2 and 3, and actually the first esports car almost yeah, laying kind of squabbling amongst each other. It's like, yeah, this strategy, whilst I think the idea was right and at least it's done something a little bit different, now I'm sure Jensen and Rogers will change positions, but you can see the pace that Berryman has already pulling away, and we're back to 2 and 3, and that's, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot more kind of games, strategy games that Burst Esports can play on us now. So Fluke on that last lap was a little bit slower than Kroenke. He is 3 seconds behind, and then Berryman a further 1.5 seconds behind. So yeah, this race still very much alive, and I think now we've got to play the strategy games on Martin Kroenke if we're going to win this race.
Yeah, let's see. First of all, what De Jong will do. I think at this point he is going for a one-stopper because we are almost halfway through this race. 71 laps, so halfway will be around lap 35, 36. And I don't think he will stop earlier than that at this point. Berryman is lapping faster than Kroenke, ever so slightly, just 1/10 of a second, while Jamie Fluke 15.8, so 0.3 of a second slower than Berryman. So Berryman once again is closing in on Jamie, and we'll see how they will handle this when they eventually get together in a few laps time.
I must say, I think that they're at a real luxury right now. Apex are Berryman and Fluke. By the way, Jensen's still ahead of Rogers. They really ought to change those two around. But yeah, really at a luxury because, you know, they've got the option right now. They can go for a super undercut, get the undercut on Martin Kroenke, and potentially get track position, or they could do and just split the strategy between the two cars. So this is really good. Only thing is that Mitchell de Jong, could he be quite crucial to this, do you think, Marco? Because Mitchell, of course, still out there. He's going to be pitting maybe within about 5 laps or so. Currently, our two guys running 2 seconds a lap faster. They will catch him in the next few laps, and Mitchell could potentially hold up Fluke and Berryman just to help his teammate.
Look, I'm watching the track map right now, and a move now for the pits would be very, very, very problematic, I think, because the field is so spread out, you are bound to get into some traffic, I think. So I wouldn't necessarily pit if I were the Apex guys right now, but you are right. Even though when you are that much faster than the car you are trying to pass, and I'm talking about the young and his very, very old tires, the Apex cars have proven that they can follow very well to the final corner, and that is the crucial corner, of course, when you want to set up a passing, the only passing spot available, and that's turn 1. So we will see how this is going to play out. De Jong will try to defend. I think he'll let Kroenke by in a couple of laps, but then he'll be under pressure from Fluke and Berryman at the same time, and I don't think there's much that he will be able to do. 17.7 for De Jong, 15.6 for Kroenke. The Apex guys 15.7 and 15.3. Berryman once again lapping faster than Kroenke. He's got the DRS, of course, but that's not all the story. I think that is genuine pace from Berryman right now.
Yeah, this is absolutely terrific from Berryman. Of course, yeah, we haven't talked about Kevin S. Jr. too much in these past few laps, and that's just because I think he's been caught up a little bit behind Mac Backham. Not sure if he made a move on Yao Vaz or not, or whether that was during the pit stops, or maybe Vaz was behind before the pit stops, but he is ahead of Yao Vaz, crucially, in P10 currently, Kevin S. Jr., just behind Mac Backham. Of course, Mac, one of the championship contenders, at least at the start of the championship, but just struggling out there. And yeah, he's running in P9. S. Jr. significantly faster. Still question what could have been for him on that last lap. He set a lap time 2/100ths faster than Jimmy Fluke, up in P3 currently. So really has had the pace of his teammates, but that poor qualifying from him has really cost Kevin of just exhibiting this awesome pace once again. And Berryman ahead of Flike, so the change has occurred, and I think that's wise.
And Cronky was led by De Jong at the same time, so simultaneous strategy move there, and we'll see what's going on now, because I think that Pete will be on De Jong pretty quickly. So Cronky still has a good position. We'll see Berryman and Fluk, what will they do. I think if they can get rid of De Jong quickly, they will be primed for a podium position at the minimum, and we'll see how the strategy will play out. Maybe they will be able to put some pressure on Martin, and then who knows, maybe get that victory. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be awkward for Peter and Jamie, because I can see them maybe having to pass Mitchell a couple of times. You think maybe pass them this time in the next couple of laps before Mitchell makes his pit stop, which we suspect is going to be a one-stopper. And then, of course, Mitchell will be on fresher tyres, will be able to potentially get the undercut on the two Apex Racing UK drivers, and then, they'll have to pass once again, but, on significantly fresher tyres. So Mitchell could be a little bit frustrating here, but on that last lap, Berryman was 3 seconds faster. Admittedly, De Jong did let his teammate pass, but, he's still at least 2 seconds a lap faster. This is incredible from Peter. Like, we saw brilliant defense from Peter Imola, didn't we? But we didn't see him clearly have more pace than Martin Conke, which I think we can see quite easily right now.
Yeah, both Apex guys lapping faster, and Peter Berryman down the inside, and he makes the move, crucial move there. Can he defend on the inside? Oh, he left better grip from his tires. And he makes it stick. That is crucial. Great move by Peter Berryman here.
Fluk fancied his chances as well. Couldn't quite make it stick, but yeah, that was important for Berryman. Wanted to get that done as soon as possible. It has cost him, unfortunately, about a second and a half. And of course, a second and a half isn't easy to get back. But, Peter Berryman will take that still. Now, Fluk will get the move. And predictably, De Jong into the pits. And this will be interesting now. De Jong, also Jensen into the pits after his super early first stop. It'll be interesting now to see where De Jong will come out. Maybe around Ellis Jr. And I think Kevin will be quite happily keeping Mitchell De Jong behind him.
Yeah, also Vaz is in front of De Jong as well, so De Jong will exit the pits in P10 right now. Jensen P14 for him after his stop. Okay, so before all this exchange of positions, the previous lap, Berryman and Fluk were both faster than Cronky, and Berryman has been consistently faster than Cronky throughout the race. So we'll see now with Berryman finally in P2 if he will continue this good run of laps, this good string of laps he's putting together, and if he will be able to play some strategy to try to get a better close the gap between himself and Cronky.
Yeah, there isn't really an easy strategy move out there, although I said we'll be doing it. But yeah, Peter at least needs to put himself into a position where he could win this race. Maybe go for not the overcut necessarily. Let's see if Ellis Jr. can get the move on Backham here. Seen a few Coanda versus Apex race battles out there. This one's been going on for a while. Ellis Jr. can't quite make the move for now, but yeah, Berryman at least needs to put himself into a strong position. That last lap, 3.5 tenths faster. Incredible from Peter. He's got significantly more pace. They're on the same tyres, remember, and Berryman's been following other drivers as well. You'd think that may have damaged his tyres. He's got incredible pace. He's way faster than everyone else out on circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. He's pushing really hard, and most importantly, he can see Cronky in front of him. He can see that the gap is closing both visually and on the timing sheet. So This could be crucial in the next few laps, how they will play it out with the strategy, with the pit stops, and I think we are in for a very interesting final portion of the race. Again, 0.3 of a second, more or less, for Berryman on Kroenke, whilst Fluke is lapping slightly slower, on par with Kroenke's time this time around. You see the live gap on the bottom right of your screens. 3.6 seconds is the gap between the two drivers right now. You can see where Kroenke gains and where Berryman gains, because the gap is live.
Yeah, another couple of tenths gone in on this lap already. Half a tenth in the first sector, a tenth in the second, 10.5 through the third as well, joints through the fourth. And then there's, yeah, one more sector to go, 2 more sectors to go, I think. But Berryman, yeah, still closing in, 3.5 seconds behind now. Of course, we should just watch out for Josh Rogers in the closing stages of this race. I think Fluke may be under a bit of pressure from Rogers. Of course, De Jong is going to be in there as well. But Berryman, I think it's a straight fight for the race victory between Kroenke and Berryman now. On that last lap, Berryman, another 3.5 tenths of a second. It's relentless, and it's kind of inevitable. The gap's going to come down to nothing.
Yeah, hopefully it will. Peter is driving, I think, the race of his life right now. That was another amazing lap, as De Jong gets a 15.3 after changing tires. I really can't wait for the pit stops to come, because really the race will be decided, I think it will be decided on track, but the pit stop will give us a clearer idea. Of course, once again, like I said before, Peter has the chance to see what Martin is doing, and he will be able to react accordingly.
Yeah, just to show how fast Peter is out there. On that last idea, 15.45. Mitchell de Jong in clear air on 2 lap old tyres or whatever, 15.33. So 1/10 of a second, despite their tyres being some 11 laps difference in age. Such good pace from Peter.
Wow, another great lap.
Wow, half a second. This is unbelievable. This is as fast as Peter's kept up this pace for the entire stint. He's driving all-out aggression, and yet he's not using up his tyres. It's amazing.
Unbelievable what we're seeing from Peter Berryman as we are entering the second half of this race, lap 39 of 71. So we are getting closer and closer to crunch time. He is lapping extremely fast, and yeah, he's constantly keeping up with his opposition, getting a gap on Jamie Fluke, which I think Jamie will have to watch his mirrors in a few laps time, because Rogers is coming. But once again, you can see it on the track map on the right, you can see on the timing screen on the link you have, and on the scoring tower on the left, that the gap is getting smaller and smaller as laps go by. And once again, Kroenke on the start finish straight, 15.8 and 15.9, so 1/10 of a second gain from Kroenke there. So good lap there from Kroenke, I think, as Kevin Ellis Jr. on the outside of the area line in that corner, and Bakum defending. I thought he was going for the pits.
Yeah, he's just
And he made
past
it.
there. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh, and Bakum's missed his braking zone, and he very nearly went into the back of Ellis Jr. Like Ellis Jr. went into the back of the corpse earlier on, but that was odd there from Bakum.
I thought he was going for the pits initially, then
Yeah. He lifted off though.
He lifted, then he was very aggressive. I think you're right, he missed his braking zone there. That could have been problematic. Another position gain from Kevin. Of course, he's trying to get as many positions as he can. It's not been an easy race for him. Bad qualifying, a lot of say interesting moments in the race. Now
Oh,
up to
Backham's all
P7.
over the place, so
Yeah.
yeah, just he nearly lost the car by himself. So those tyres, I was surprised when it looked like Mac was going to come in because he pitted. Well, he did pit on lap 20, did Backham, compared to Ellis Jr. on lap 22. So he will be one of the first drivers to take his second pit stop. Will be Mac Backham. So far, the only driver to have taken 2 stops is Marcus Jensen, who had an incredibly early first stop, and I think that strategy really works out for him. In the end, he's behind Mitchell de Jong now. Berryman on that last lap, 3/10 faster. So back to normal. We weren't concerned whatsoever. We had faith in Pete that he was going to start closing back that gap. Sorry, he was going to start bringing that gap down again. And it's now 2.3 seconds between the top 2. I am a bit concerned, Marco, about De Jong. I did say earlier on how Peter might have to pass De Jong a couple of times, and I was talking how he might be able to get the undercut, could De Jong. De Jong, whilst Peter is driving absolutely superbly, De Jong is a couple of tenths a lap faster, and I think if Peter pitted right now, he would be behind Mitchell. So yeah, that could be a little bit of an issue for Peter, I think, later on.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And these drivers are stretching, I think, 15.7 for Berryman, 16 flat for Kroenke, 3/10 once again.
Also, Rogers dropping off Jamie. I was a little bit concerned for Jamie for a few minutes because it seemed as though Josh had just as good pace as him, but with that 3-second gap, there's not really a whole lot Josh can do. I think, you know, Josh might come in for a pit stop, but then I think lap after Jamie comes in and covers off the undercut, so should not be an issue there for Jamie. I think he's looking really strong there. Again, De Jong could be a bit of an issue for him. Might have to overtake him later on, but with significantly fresher tyres, we saw him get it done earlier on. I reckon he could do it again.
So Orozco is in the pits and pitting out right now. It's lap 42, soon to be 43. So we are getting, I think, in the final part of the race right now. On the start-finish straight, Martin Kroenke 16.2, 15.9 for Berryman, still 3/10 of a second faster, which has been the regular gap that Peter has taken from Kroenke in the last few laps. And I mean, they are very, very close right now. You can see it from the cameras. Still not quite, bumper to bumper, but Peter can see the car getting closer and closer to himself. Let's see how they will play it with the stops.
It's really important for Peter to get within about a second, isn't it? Because if he pitted now, Peter, he'd pit, do a really good outlap, I'm sure. Martin would pit, and Martin would still be ahead of him and would have 1 lap older tyres. And from that position, you don't really fancy Peter's chances. So whilst he has got some, over 25 more laps to go, he's kind of got to get really close to Martin right now, just so that he does have the option of the undercut whenever. And Kroenke's in. Wow, I'm surprised by that. I'm really surprised. I honestly expected him to stay out for another couple of laps, because surely now that means that Peter, he can do a couple of really strong laps now. He'll have 5 lap fresher tyres potentially in the future, and I don't think he'll be that far behind Kroenke when he comes into the pit. So this is just more goodness for Peter Berryman, I think.
Yeah, let's see where Kroenke ends up.
He's ahead of Ellis Jr. That's crucial.
Yeah. And in front of De Jong, so he's in P6 and he's got, I think, some decently clear track in front of him. He's got Hapala in 5th position there. But we'll see. Of course, I am expecting Peter in 1 or 2 laps, nothing longer than that, because otherwise that will negate the advantage of having pushed so hard and having all this better pace with similar tires in this previous stint. So Peter Berryman leading the race. Final corner, let's see what he does. He stays out. It was a... yeah.
So I was just going to ask you, of course we've got a fantastic championship battle between Hootsie, De Jong and Kroenke out there. Kroenke only just stayed ahead of De Jong. Do you think there's almost a bit of team battling within Coanda? Because they're not necessarily fighting for the win. I'm sure if Kroenke had the chance, he'd rather, let's say, finish second and De Jong fifth, rather than, you know, maybe De Jong first and Kroenke second, if you get what I mean. I think they're fighting against one another, not fighting as a team necessarily. Do you think that's the case out there? Because I think Kroenke may have come in so early just to cover off De Jong so that he didn't lose track position to him, despite them being teammates.
Could be possible, absolutely. We don't know what's going on in the other teams, but we know that sometimes being on the same team does not guarantee working together. So that could be possibility. We'll see. We see now Peter Berryman on the start-finish straight. He's not pitting once again. Let's see his lap time this time around is going to be a 16.0. Jamie Fluke is in from P2. As is Omishima.
Well, that's not brilliant for Peter, I must say, because it would have been nice if Kroenke and De Jong had to make that move on Umishima, so that's a little bit frustrating, but you know, he's running his own races, Kazuki. I must say, I think running a really good race as well, because he could well finish within about 20 seconds of the lead, which would be an awesome result for Kazuki out there. Fluke back out into P6, he's behind Jensen, so gotta make the move again on Jensen, and then he's 7 seconds behind De Jong, but with significantly younger tyres, 11 lap younger tyres, so this pretty much confirms to us, I'd say, Marco, that when Berryman comes out of the pits, he's going to be behind De Jong, obviously, and behind Kroenke. So, but he should be ahead of Jensen. So, yeah, I don't really know what I'm trying to say there, but it's going to be close. And he's into the pits. Okay, so he's going to be in the nice little gap between De Jong and Jensen there. So there's not really too much pressure on this pit stop. Now it'll just be a case of catching up to De Jong, overtaking De Jong, then catching up to Kroenke, and overtaking Kroenke. Easier said than done. Oh, is he getting a new front wing? Oh dear! Peter Berryman. Oh my goodness, I thought maybe the damage would be costly for him, and he's going to lose a position here as well. Unless that's a speeding penalty. That's a really long stop for Peter Berryman. That's a speeding penalty, I think. 19 seconds. I can't believe it.
Wow. I think it was 4.1 seconds the stop, so it was a regular stop, but maybe a speeding penalty. Let's see the replay.
Yeah.
He came in with locked wheels. Wow, that was not needed, unfortunately. High pressure situation, and now he's down to 7th position, and Kroenke will be smiling because now I think he has the win in the bag. Very, very bad luck for Peter there. He was having a fantastic race. I think we can say it without any, no one can say that we are biased when we say he had the fastest car all day long. On pure pace, he was the best of the bunch, but sadly, that long stop completely ruined his race. And that's going to hurt, I think, because it was a decent chance of having a good finish.
Yeah, definitely. Had the podium secured. I think he had De Jong within his grasp as well. But yeah, it's really frustrating for Peter Berryman. Now he's got to make the moves on Kazuki Yumashima first, who is only on 1 lap older tyres. And then will be Josh Rogers, who's on the same age tyres, and then will be Jamie Fluke. So I think maybe a top 5 is as far up as Peter's going to get. I don't think he's going to be able to get his own teammate. Fluke is flying out there though. On that last lap he was some 9/10 faster than the race leader. First up, Marcus Jensen. Jensen pitted 11 laps earlier. This should be easy, very easy for Marco.
Yeah, he should get a good exit from this ideal lion duck corner. He does. Gets the DRS. Should be able to make the move on the inside, and he does. So podium on the cars for Jamie Fluke, as Berryman is trying to pass Omishima.
Kazuki was very well managed.
Oh,
Then, wow, a little bit of contact. I thought Kazuki was basically giving him that one, but I don't think Peter ran wide there. Kazuki maybe just squeezed him a little bit too much. It doesn't really matter. A tiny bit of contact. And next up, Josh Rogers, and then will be Marcus Jensen. So actually, top 4 is what Peter's going to have to be aiming for out there.
Yeah, let's see, because hopefully the hit wasn't very hard on the left rear. I don't think there's any kind of suspension damage. We'll have to check Peter's lap times for the next couple of laps, because sometimes these cars can be sometimes very sturdy and sometimes very, very fragile. So you never know what is going to happen. So keep an eye on the lap times and see. From the way he is driving, I think Peter is okay. As we see, well, I think that he will be able to get to Rogers, maybe even to Jensen, because of the massive difference in laps on their tires.
You know what? Oh no, maybe I was pushing myself. I was thinking he might have a chance at De Jong, and I know that sounds absolutely absurd because he's 15 seconds behind Mitchell De Jong, but with how much fresher his tyres are, his tyres are some 12 laps younger, along with the fact that he's been really quite quick today, Peter. With, 20 laps to go, he might stand a chance, although...
I think a crash for Jensen, I think.
Yep. Oh yeah, you can see the gravel.
He's been overtaken by multiple drivers. I saw him stuck in the gravel for several seconds, so maybe he ran wide or had a spin. This of course promotes almost everybody in front of him. We see, I think that Peter Berryman now is getting closer and closer. So some breathing room for Jamie Fluke.
Oh, he's into the pits then.
He's in the pits, yeah.
Oh, he's hit a cone as well, just to add to frustrations. Yeah, so I don't know, Sam, if we could just get a replay of that. Of course, we're not going to pay too much attention to the other drivers, but I think with it, giving Peter an extra position out there. And yeah, here it was. Just taking some liberties on the grass, wasn't he? He wants to get every kind of centimetre possible. Do you think that was maybe pushing a little bit too hard, or maybe a lack of concentration? It's that really could have been either one, I think.
Well, yeah, but when you push too hard, you tend to make mistakes in the braking zones, or he had basically half the car on the grass, so maybe a lack of concentration there. It was very, very odd, especially from a World Championship caliber driver like him. Peter Berryman is in P5 right now. Kevin Ellis Jr. in P8, trying to close the gap with Apala in front of him. As we are 19 laps away from the checker flag, as Fluke is lapping consistently faster than De Jong. I don't know if there's time for Fluke to catch back to De Jong. Also the drivers are getting into some traffic, which was, I think, to be expected given the nature of the track, short and not a lot of passing opportunities. Although we have seen a fair share of passing, I think, you know, I thought this was going to be as bad or even worse than Silverstone, if you remember the first race we did with the team stream, and that was absolutely dreadful because I think there were 2 passes all race long, and this so far exceeded my expectations. People have passed. It wasn't easy. They had to work for it. We saw a couple of you know, close calls and contacts, but we've seen some passing unbelievably, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, definitely. I've been surprised as well. I really thought that it would be a race of, like, almost impossible to overtake unless you're at least a second lap faster. We've actually seen moves when we're not in DRS trains, at least, where drivers have made overtakes when they're only about half a second lap faster, which, you know, around Monza, of course, you almost get dragged along by other drivers, but it is a little bit surprising that kind of overtakes have been kind of so plentiful out there.
Jamie took 0.7 of a second from De Jong this lap. Of course, he was dealing with and Cronky. I think De Jong was dealing with traffic there, which now will be, of course, in the clutches of Fluk. It was Bida, if I'm not mistaken, and I think Fluk will get him on the final straight, hopefully, so it won't pose too much of a problem. Maybe we'll also give him some DRS, let's see. Yeah, definitely not here. I was too optimistic. 15.6 Cronky, 15.6 De Jong, 15.1 Fluk. Another good gain.
I don't know if Cronky is just cruising to the race victory or not, but I think he might have to kind of step back onto the throttle because we're seeing Cronky a little bit faster than Fleet today. You know, not a lot whatsoever, a little bit faster. Of course, Cronky does have 2-lap older tyres than Fleet, but I think he's really just, you know, lying back in his armchair, I think, right now is Cronky. But, you know, 5 seconds separates the top 3. Kind of needs to maybe pick it up a little bit, otherwise I think Fluke might be onto the back of him by the end of this race. Hopefully, that's all the pace that he's got. That's what we've got to aim for, because Fluke is driving really well. I think this is possibly his best part of the race. And I did mention earlier, Peter Berryman, he could catch up Mitchell de Jong. I must say, I'm totally convinced by that now, because Berryman on that last lap was nearly 9/10 faster. He's 11 seconds off de Jong, and we've got 17 more laps to go. So, yeah, I think it's going to happen.
You know, the key is going to be how much time will Fluke lose while trying to pass De Jong. As the guys are on the start-finish line once again, and once again, a good gain from Jamie on both Cronky and, more importantly, De Jong for P2. Again, lap car in front of him. Hopefully, he will move out of the way. He does. Okay, so now it's pedal to the metal time for Jamie. You can see in front of him, one corner ahead, basically, it's Mitchell de Jong.
Lost about 1.5 tenths, I think, due to that back marker, just with the turbulent air, I think, and of course it's a little bit of a distraction. But I think the car ahead of him now is anything but a distraction. It's going to be dragging him closer.
Berryman is in the gearbox of Rogers, if the track map is right. Well, no, maybe not in the gearbox, but somewhere close. I think the move is coming from Peter, maybe not this lap. 15.3 Cronky, 15.7 De Jong, 15.1 for Fluke. Let's see Rogers. 15.2 and 14.9 for Berryman. Oh, what could have been Peter?
Yep, just thinking that. Oh dear. You think he would have been ahead of Fluke coming out of the pits? almost certainly would have been past De Jong, I think, by now. You know, with these times, he's consistently half a second a lap faster than Martin Conke. He must be... Do you think he would have forgotten that by now? Or do you think he's completely reset his mind? Admittedly, I think, you know, rage might make him drive even faster, but there's no doubting it. Peter has been sublime today.
Yeah, and no, I cannot speak for him because I am not nearly as good as a driver as he is. But usually, when I make a mistake, and I throw away a victory, I drive terribly in the rest of the race. But these guys are World Championship drivers for a reason, even though, you know, it's surely on the back of his mind that he could have been fighting for a lot more than 4th position.
Yeah, just to give you a bit of a reference, he with that speeding penalty, he got a 15-second time penalty. He's 13 seconds off the lead. I'm not brilliant at maths, but you can pretty much work that out for yourself. Wouldn't necessarily be in the lead right now because he would have had a couple of cars to overtake, although he's had to overtake a couple of cars. Anyway, De Jong versus Flike. It's really close. 0.3 of a second between the two of them. Flike. This is where Berryman made the move on De Jong earlier on, because these two haven't had a proper wheel-to-wheel battle all race long. But here we are with just over 10 laps to go, with these two now wheel-to-wheel for this P2. And Fluke's been super reliable today, hasn't he? And has not put a foot wrong. Hasn't quite had the same pace as Berryman, but I think he's been at most maybe a 10th a lap slower than Conke. He's been also absolutely brilliant.
Start finish line, DRS is enabled and open. Not going to be easy. Jamie was smart. Maybe he's got a better exit here of Tarzan corner, but of course De Jong using the banking to his advantage there. And that was the key I said before. How much time will Jamie lose behind De Jong? And of course De Jong is not making it easy, as it should be, of course, driving his own race and keeping Jamie behind for as long as he can. You can see the sheer difference in cornering speed between De Jong and Fluke.
Fluke just sliding through one of those corners didn't exactly help him, but he is within about a quarter of a second going into this next corner. Just all about picking your braking zone. Lots of different lines you can take through that little complex. Fluke, if anything, well, no, I think he's, if anything, I think he's closer than he was on the last, although just running a little bit wide in the penultimate corner. I don't think he's going to be close enough this time. Here we go again. DRS, I think he's almost in range. Will he go for a dive? Late on, he has a look. Maybe just to put De Jong ever so slightly off, but it wasn't enough. Oh, and now Berryman round the outside. Can he pull off this move once again? Peter Berryman round the outside into turn 1. He has made it, surely. Can he just pull ahead into 2? Peter Berryman, speeding penalty or not, he is a fantastic overtaker, and he's up into P4. And now I really feel as though a podium is on the cards.
Well, once again, as an oval guy, I absolutely love that move on the outside at Tarzan corner. Absolutely amazing to use the banking to your advantage. Peter is having an amazing race and is putting on a show for us once again. Great move. And now next target, I think it's going to be, you are right, the podium. Not that far ahead. Of course, a battle between Jamie and De Jong will help him for sure, as these two are still very, very close. 0.3 of a second, just like the previous lap, coming around the Ariel Irondyke bend.
He's closer this time, isn't he? Fluke versus De Jong. Fluke looks to the inside. Can he go for it? No. He's not quite got that pace advantage, I think, over De Jong that he needs. He just can't quite get closer. He can't stay close enough, I think, through this part of the circuit, this middle part of the circuit. which means that he's always kind of a little bit too far back coming out of that final corner. But on that last lap, Berryman, 14.96, De Jong and Flike, 15.83. So he's going to catch them by the end of the race, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Luke just losing a tiny bit of time through that corner that he just went through. And see this one where De Jong so far has not made a mistake, and once again he hasn't made a mistake. Just using a little bit more room does De Jong, and Flike is just through those few corners where he needs to get a little bit closer. This time though, flats out through that final corner easy in these light cars now, and here comes Jamie Flike down into turn 1. Can he go for the move this time? Fluke's going to go for it, and he's not quite brave enough on the brakes to go for the move on De Jong. But that was as close as he's been, Marco.
Yeah, I don't know how long he will be this patient, because I think that he's going to force a move sooner rather than later, with the laps ticking down. Almost no time left for these guys, and Jamie knows he's faster, knows he deserves a P2, and once again looking there on the inside, but it's so difficult to pass through these corners here. Once again, they are flat, they are very wide, but they are very flat, so you don't get enough momentum to carry to make the pass. Then the useless DRS zone, the chicane here. Great use of the curbs by Jamie. Now we'll see. Basically, if he's 0.3 of a second behind at the exit of the final corner, he's too far away. Now he's 2 point... Wow, it's marginally closer. Maybe this will make all the difference in the world. We'll see. No, once again, no.
Yeah, didn't quite get the same run out of that corner. He was equal distance behind, but that time I think he just felt a little bit more understeer through that final corner. You got to question what Mitchell's tyres are like, because yeah, he's been on those tyres for quite a few laps since lap 34, compared to Flike, who put the tyres on lap 45, and Berryman on lap 46. On that last lap, Berryman was over a second faster than these two. 4.5 seconds behind you. You're going to see him in the background in some of these shots very, very soon.
I think that a sweet spot will be exiting I-Relay and I corner for the 250 mil, or how do you say that? 2.5 tenths of a second, sorry. Mils of milk, no. Sorry. 250, 2 tenths of a second and a half behind.
Yeah, 2.5 tenths.
2.5 tenths, yeah.
Yeah.
And this time he does that. Let's see if he has a good run.
Flike to the inside, going into turn 1. De Jong's so brave though around the outside. He's got more confidence around that corner, I think, than Flike. And you know what? I don't think. I think if Flike gets another situation like that, he's got to take it, because I can't see him getting any closer coming out of that final corner than he got on that last lap.
0.3 of a second was not good enough. 2.5 tenths of a second wasn't good enough as well. But I think if he forces the move, De Jong will have to yield. We'll see. Of course, there's always the risk of a crash. You have fought so hard to get into P3, and you think, no, I don't want to throw away a podium, but he's so much faster.
About same distance behind this time as well. So he's kind of got himself ever so slightly faster. Is there a bit of a risk of maybe Mitchell wisening up to where Jamie's quick, and maybe this could just start repeating itself lap after lap, do you reckon?
We'll see, because once again we have a good exit here. I think he'll get him this time. He does. So
De Jong's nearly round, and Fluke's made it. He's up into P2. De Jong also damaging his tyres ever so slightly there. Flike made that one, and yeah, De Jong not defending, had confidence around the outside, didn't he? But Flike should easily be able to pull away. Now he's 8 seconds off Conte. That's not going to be a battle. Next up, Berryman on De Jong.
Yeah, the contact was of course a desperation move by De Jong, trying to not getting past, but it was too late. It wasn't intentional, of course, but there was of course a desperate attempt there. Nothing on Jamie's part. He did a great overtake, had a great run, and now it's Peter's time, I think, with 64 laps, soon to be 65 laps. 71 total, so we are 6 away, I think, from the start, from the finish of the race, from the end of the race. And like you said, Kroenke cruising on in the front, but we will have probably Flike and Berryman sitting second and third on the podium come the race end.
Yeah, Berryman already within a second. He didn't get the DRS zone down that straight, but I think maybe it wasn't quite within the DRS detection zone just as they crossed it. But by the time they got onto the straight, he was certainly within a second. He's within half a second now. Is Berryman edging closer and closer? You can see how much more confidence he's got. One thing for De Jong is that he's going to lose positions, I think, to the drivers behind as well. Berryman looking for a move wherever he looks, because Rogers and Umashima potentially could get past De Jong by the end of this race. Not going to be good for his championship. Berryman not in the championship hunt really. Still looking for probably best of the rest, maybe a top 4 in the championship, but he won't care about that right now. He just wants a podium, which will be, you know, the least he deserves. A little bit further back though, isn't he, Marco? And maybe I think he's... Oh, actually, you know what? He's really close now. The final corner. Gap is 0.3 of a second. He's got a really good run as Peter Berryman. He's been so brave on the brakes so far today. You'll look to the inside into turn 1. Not quite close enough.
Yeah, you can see from the onboard shot we've had before, De Jong is absolutely on the limit, especially in this first part of the racetrack with all these fast corners where you need a lot of grip. Of course, aero helps you, but you also need the tires, and he is all over the place, barely keeping the car on the track as Berryman is getting closer and closer, but like we said, it's so difficult to pass here. Of course, Peter made a very nice pass before in this part of the track, so it's not impossible.
He's hung on to it. Brilliant save from Berryman there. It's overheated his tyres. He's still going to have a great chance at De Jong, but wow, that was that's going to make him think twice.
Yeah, and that was the break De Jong needed. They will have, I think, 1 or 2 laps of rest to clear his mind, even though Peter is still absolutely close. He lost a couple of tenths there, nothing more. He's 0.5 of a second instead of 0.3 of a second back here. We still have DRS, so we'll be able to close the gap once again, getting into the braking zone. So for Peter, it's just a question of getting back into the racing rhythm, because he knows he's faster and he knows he can make the pass. That was a big scare, but yeah, he's back once again in contention for that podium, final podium position.
Yeah, you said maybe a lap of rest for De Jong. It was maybe half a lap, but absolute
yeah.
most, because you can see Berryman again here. If anything, looking a little bit, I don't want to say ragged. Yeah, well, he is looking a little bit ragged now. I think he's just overheated those rear tyres. Problem is, he can't exactly think, oh, I'll just have a couple of laps just to to lay back and cool them back down again, because if he's not careful, Rogers will be onto the back of him very soon if he doesn't make this move. He's closer than he was a couple of laps ago. Closest he's been, Berryman. How much confidence does he have to do this penultimate corner? He's a lot faster than De Jong. He's within 0.2 of a second. He's on the gearbox already, and this is going to be simple for Peter Berryman. He's going to move up into the podium positions once again. Peter Berryman back down the inside of Mitchell de Jong's second move on de Jong in this race. And that will pretty much beat Berryman's race. I think he's not going to catch up to Flike, I think. I don't think he'll be too desperate to anyway. So race or what could have been for Peter Berryman, but he's driven absolutely superb in this recovery drive. Remember, he was down into P7, wasn't he, at one point, and a few laps later, he's into the podium.
Yeah, so it's looking good for for a double podium for Apex Racing UK, as we see now Jamie Fluke on camera, and Kevin Ellis Jr. is defending himself, I think, from both Mac Bakum and Jensen. Well, especially from Bakum, since he's the closer. No Jensen on inside. Sorry about that.
I think Bakum's quite a bit behind. I think that's the back marker just behind. So I think Ellis Jr. is actually fine from any pressure from behind. He's just looking to get the move on Hoppler.
It's because the guy behind him is in 18th position, but since on the track map Kevin was so close to the guy, I only saw the number 8 on the 18. So yeah, he's pretty sure it will end his race in 8th position. Feeling pretty and maybe we'll try for close the gap on Hapal. About only 3 laps to go, and the gap is close to 1 second. So maybe probably there's not enough time. So back to the front of the pack. Oh boy, I might have jinxed Kevin.
Oh dear.
He's a friend of mine, and he won't be happy when he hears and watches the broadcast. I'm going to hear from him.
Do you think that's maybe the age of his tyres, or what? Because that was a bit unusual.
Yeah, the car snapped from under him, coming out of the hairpin. Very strange. And yeah, that I think was due to his, let's see the replay once again. I don't think he went to the grass. Maybe this will show a clearer picture. Oh yeah, no grass, absolutely. Just power and maybe all tires. Likely didn't hit anything, but he lost some crucial positions.
Yeah, had to work hard to get ahead of Mac Backham, because Marcus Jensen had an issue earlier on, which put him out of position after running in the top 5 earlier on in the race. So Ellis Jr., he's not going to be able to gain any position. He's quite far behind, unfortunately. Berryman catching up to Flike on that last lap, 6/10 faster. But we've only got 1 more lap to go after this one, so I don't know what Peter's mindset must be right now, whether he wants to catch up to his teammate or not. Of course, there's not going to be a swap. Peter made a mistake, and Jamie has profited from that, so no point in changing them around. Cronkite leads this race by 9 seconds. It's been relatively easy for him, but still an awesome result for Apex Racing UK, isn't it, Marco? 2 drivers on the podium. I think we've only ever done that maybe once or twice before in the past, so would still be an awesome achievement.
Yeah, like Alex Simpson is saying, and he's on vacation, so we send him. Hopefully he's enjoying his vacation. As we see Kevin Ellis Jr. once again on camera. As Alex says, the win is coming. They said always the bridesmaid and never the bride, but I think that the marriage is finally coming for Apex Racing UK. One of these races will be a race victory, because Jamie and Peter and even Kevin are absolutely fast. They have always a great car. They have always good strategies. Just some wrinkles to iron out, and sometimes luck will fall on Apex UK's side for once. Season is still a bit longer, so we will have more opportunities as Cronky wins the race, and Fluke and Berryman will finish 2nd and 3rd, getting a nice double podium.
Awesome driving from Jamie Fluke and Peter Berryman. And yeah, a double podium in the end, comfortable over De Jong and Rogers. Here comes Kevin Ellis Jr. It's not going to be quite the result he wanted. A P7 would have been an awesome effort, but he started in 16th place. And it's a really good recovery from Kevin Ellis Jr. to come home in 9th position. And moving on to Indianapolis in a couple of weeks' time. I think it's in a couple of weeks' time anyway. They will really be fancying their chances, those three drivers. Also, of course, Antoine Hegelin as well, who we hope will be back next time.
All the drivers finishing the race. Partington, I think, is left. Of the guys still running, is rounding the final corner and the start-finish line, and here he is. So this is the race, and I think we can move on to the final results on screen for you.
Yes, Martin Conke taking away the race victory, 9 seconds clear in the end over Jamie Flike. Berryman really did get close by the end. Remember, he had a 15-second penalty for speeding in the pits, ended within 10 seconds of the race lead. Mitchell de Jong ends up in 4th with Rogers 5th, Yumashima 6th, Harpler 7th, Backham 8th, and of course Kevin Ellis Jr. 9th, starts his 16th. Good effort from Kevin, and he'll be frustrated not to take home a 7th place, but such a difficult to overtake circuit. He did a really, really good job out there, and really showed he had as good a pace, if not maybe even better than the likes of Jamie Flike out there. So maybe he would have been fighting for a podium as well, but weren't for that poor qualifying. And then just rounding out the field was Baz, Jensen, Orozco, Gerges, Burgess, Oscard, Partington, Bieder, Ilbrink, Belay, Williams, Michaels, Price, De Corps, Remniak, Wensing, and Schothorst in 26th position. We will hopefully get a couple of interviews. Unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, it's kind of good that Jamie and Peter will be having interviews with Racespot, I assume. But yeah, for now, of course, Marco, with Indianapolis coming up, it's a bit more of a kind of generic circuit. And I think how close it's been out there between, probably the big three teams plus Hootsuite as well. We're going to see some awesome battling out there. And I think Apex Racing UK are, if not the favourites, right there to take a race victory now.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be the Formula 1 track or the IndyCar track that is going to be used. So I imagine the DRS will play a huge part, of course, with the impressive final straight and, of course, one of the world famous four corners of the oval. So it's going to be a great race, and I cannot wait for that. And of course, don't forget 18 GMT, more or less. Me and Sam, we will be back tonight for the Euro V8 Championship from Okayama. So don't miss that amazing triple header here on Apex Racing TV. Because of that, I will have to head off, so I will leave you in the hands of Sam and Sam for the post-race interviews, and I think we will catch you later for the Euro V8s.
Yeah, see you later, Marco. Thanks for doing this stream. It was absolute great fun.
Absolutely. Catch you later, guys, and let's hope for interviews. Bye.
Yeah, I think last time, Sam, I think we just had a little bit of a break at this point whilst the drivers just got themselves ready, reflected on that race. So if you could just take maybe a 10-minute break, and I think we'll be back with the interviews a little bit later on.
iRacing.com is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all over the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics and engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. iRacing's web-based interface allows members to compare stats and test drive any combination of car and track instantly. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 60,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsport organizations like SRO Motorsports Group to deliver virtual races based on the real-life Blancpain GT series. iRacing's Blancpain Endurance Series features team racing, giving members the ability to build a team and participate in races ranging from 3 hours to 24 hours. Additional partners include NASCAR, IMSA, V8 Supercars, IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own 24 hours of Spa, Bathurst 1000, Daytona 500, and many more. iRacing.com, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Apex Racing UK iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series team stream. Unfortunately, a little bit of a longer wait, just Peter and Jamie getting their interviews done with Racespot. But yeah, Peter and Scott Newton are with us now. And Peter, really well done up there. You were so quick up there. Were you expecting to have such a pace advantage over the other drivers out there? Because we saw you in that second half of the race consistently 0.3 a lap faster than Martin Conke, and that's not easy to do.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? First off, I knew that my pace was very strong coming into the race, but there was no way I expected to be that quick. Like you said, I could see consistently that I was catching 10th by 10th by 10th on the cars ahead. And unfortunately, a little bit of mistake, and I've thrown the win away.
Yeah, you certainly seem to have enough pace. Was that speeding penalty maybe a little bit of a lack of concentration, or were you trying to push it as much as possible just to gain those couple of tenths?
Yeah, I mean, Scott was spotting for me, so I knew that things were going to be tight coming out of the pits with a few of the other Commando cars behind. So obviously everything's on the limit, and the tires are at the end of their life. So pushing the pit entry, I locked the inside wheel, a bit like Imola last week, and once you lock a tire, there's nothing you can really do. It's just heading to the scene of the accident, and I had to make a decision either to lift the brake and turn in, to avoid the wall, or hit the wall. And unfortunately, I had to lift the brake and just accept that I was probably going to get the penalty.
Yeah, and that's probably was the wise thing to do. But so what do you think your pace was just in the race? Do you think you had a really good race setup? Because you weren't far off in qualifying. You got a P4 in qualifying, but you were still, 3.5 tenths off Conke, which seemed to kind of be the opposite in the race. Do you think you just found something in that race setup which really advantaged you?
I think my qualifying was pretty poor. I mean, the first banker that I put in, which was the fastest lap I managed to do, was a good banker, but the second lap was just pretty atrocious. I'd say I would have fought for pole there. I think I had another 3-4 tenths at least with a cleaner lap, but yeah, I just didn't execute, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And in those final few laps, of course, you were mainly focusing on just getting past Mitchell, whose tyres were really struggling by the end. Did you have a aim of maybe catching up to Jamie and passing him, or were you just quite content on sticking with that third place and making sure the team kind of got a second and third?
Yeah, I think it was 2.8 around that after I passed Mitchell, and there was only a handful of laps to go. So I knew I was much quicker, and I was catching pretty quick, but there was no way I would have risked a move. I think it was more just in the hope that maybe if Jimmy had a lock-up, I know it sounds bad with a teammate and stuff, but if maybe he had a lock-up or a mistake, I could sort of sneak a second place, but I was never going to make an overtake. I would have just sat behind until then.
Yeah, and of course next time will be Indianapolis. One that you feel confident about? It's a bit more of a, generic circuit than this. Do you expect it to be just as close as the past couple of rounds have been?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. I think we'll be fighting for the win again. Hopefully we can get the top step this time. Yeah, looking forward to it. We're usually quite good with high-speed, low-downforce circuits, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just have a quick word with Scott. Hi, Scott. Out there, were you ever thinking of maybe a two-stopper? Was that ever an option, or did you ever think of a one-stopper, and maybe the circumstances in the race kind of favoured a two, or were you always going to go for that two-stopper?
Yeah, hey Sam. To be honest, talking to the guys before, it was a bit of a toss-up between a 1 and a 2, depending on weather. But having seen that Jensen pitted, I think it was at 15 or 16, trying that alternative strategy on the 3-stop, probably wasn't the best option today. I saw that he fell down a little bit down the field, but as I said, speaking to the guys, it was a bit of a toss-up between 1 and a 2, and just depending on the weather, to be fair.
Yeah, and were you thinking at all about maybe the strategy with the other cars, especially with Kevin? Because of course Kevin was a little bit kind of out of position. were you trying to maybe almost use Kevin as a bit of an advantage, maybe hold up Martin and Mitchell out there just to help you all, or were you very much just running your independent races, not really working with Jamie and Kevin through the race?
Yeah, we were speaking to Jamie and Kevin during the race. We saw that Jamie pitted on I think end of 22. We knew that due to the tyre deck in the first stint that it was going to be a bit of a detriment if we followed each other into the pit lane. So it was going to be one pit up, one driver pit one after the other. So it was just a toss up who was going to be first, and obviously Jamie had the gap to have that track position when he came out, and Pete pitted the lap later and managed to just get out in front of Rogers. I think it was 0.2 or something like that of a difference between being alongside and being behind. So no, it was a great job for Pete to put in the hard yards in that in lap to maintain the gap to Rogers.
Yeah, definitely. That was a really good call, I think, just to pull it off. And yeah, in the end, you managed to get the other Burst Esport car, and that was really important for the race. Final word from you, Peter. Are you kind of just taking each race as it goes, just entering every race, kind of trying to reset, or are you kind of just eyeing up that victory? You just want that victory in the next few rounds. You don't really care where it comes. But that we're so close now. It's just a matter of everything coming together.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how the mindset's changed from the start of the year. I mean, at the start of the year, I think my goal was top fives, just wanted the top fives, and to be honest, the first half of my season was an absolute disaster. I think every race something came up, and once the podium started coming, I think more and more. Now I'm after podiums all the time. I think that's the goal now, to try and consistently be on the podium. But after today, I think the goal's definitely got to be for a win. I think looking at the rest of the season, Indy has got to be the best chance left for us for a win. I just think the Kwandas are very, very strong the last few circuits, so I think Indy's going to be our best shot.
Yeah, and we certainly wish you the best of luck for that. Anyone you'd like to thank?
Yep, all the sponsors, JCL, Simputers, Leo Budner, SDK-Gaming, of course Scott, and all the guys in the team and yourselves for the broadcast. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no problem. It was great to watch, and thanks Peter, and thanks Scott. We'll see you next time at Indianapolis.
Best,
Nice,
guys.
cheers fellas.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we haven't got either Kevin or Jamie with us. I don't think they are going to be joining us. But so I'm just going to bring in you for a second here, because of course you watched that entire race, and yeah, it was ever so close in the end between those top three, and Jamie and Peter ever so close to the race victory. It's really incredible to see how far we've progressed in quite a short amount of time. 2 years ago, a race victory would have been completely off the cards. Even last season and at the start of this season, it wasn't possible. And now I think going into every round, you're kind of expecting to fight for a race victory. It's incredible.
Especially after the showing that we had today. We are expecting him to put a fight to the Kronke and the Kwanda, especially next week. And yeah, like you said, 2 years ago, I think everyone was just assuming that Kronke is going to win race after race. But now, Pete is right there, Jamie is right there, and Kevin, although he didn't have a great race today due to the issues and everything being stuck in traffic, I mean, he is also moving up. So I think the whole team is performing really strongly right now, and I think it might be one of the strongest streaks of performance they have, at least they have had in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's Pete's fourth consecutive podium position. So I think that might be his fourth consecutive third as well. So really impressive. I think that's Jamie's best ever result in a race before. So yeah, not the win today, unfortunately, but boy was it close. A small mistake from Peter Berryman perhaps cost him a chance. Jamie Flike ending up in second. with also with Kevin S. Jr. showing great pace in the end, ending up in 9th after starting outside the top 15. But the race win still eludes us. We'll be back at Indianapolis, of course. Later on, we've got the Euro V8s at 18:15 GMT, so certainly tune in for that one. But for me and Sam, we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.